Hey everyone, this is Stephen Grover Supply, and in this video I want to show you how to add on a couple of features such as the date and time and counter into an existing project. The steps to create a new project with either a counter or simply date and time, it'd be pretty similar, just instead we'd be creating a new project and then following the same steps I'm going to show you here in this video. So to get started, we're going to come up here to our edit button. We're going to go to project. And now I know we're getting pretty limited on space in our field. So what you need to know how to do is right up here where it's a paintbrush and a gear, you click on that and we can widen our field so we have more room to add. I think 75 will give us a good size window. And you got to pay attention to your size unit. I'm using centimeters. If you're in pixels, you just need to know which one you're in and learn what size. I'm familiar more with the centimeter setting. So now that we have a larger field to work in, you can see we have quite a bit here, but this is going to take quite a bit of space to add these features. We're first going to add a divider so that when we go to add our date, it's going to require another trigger pull, a second trigger pull, or a third. So in this case we want to go to other, we want to do a line divider, and then I'm guessing here, I think we're probably close to 260. In our last video we were at about that. That's pretty close. You might want to fine tune it a little. Yeah, that looks good. So then we want to do our date and time. There's a few features in here. One, you need to set your position. We'll come right back to that. You can choose your font. You can also change the format that it appears. I like the format as it is set. One thing you might consider is your seconds, if you actually want that or not. In this video I think we'll just go ahead and leave it in, but you can change a little bit of format. Our position, we set our line divider at 255, so I think 260 might be pretty good. Let's see how that looks. Go ahead and see if we have enough room there. If you see white space in between your text and your divider, you should be safe. But that's still a little close. I might add a little bit there. Just so we're not cutting it off when we go to print it. Let's do 262. Yeah, that gives us a bit of space there. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to do another line divider. There's our time, date and time. And again, you can see we're running out of space here. That's all the space we have to work with, so we might bump that up again. Go 85. See, and we're getting quite a bit. For a counter, we don't need a ton of space, so we'll work with that. Again, we're going to want a divider, so we have to pull the trigger again. You don't have to. You could have it set up to where one trigger pull, you'd just roll it and it would print the time, the date, and the counter at the same time, but in this video we'll go ahead and add a counter there. This is a guess. I think our last project ended close to 460 or so, so we're going to go up to 490 and see what that does. For the date and time, you're going to want to leave a bit of space, because as these numbers grow here, this is going to grow. And you might find a time when you go to print out your project and it cuts off either the time, or depending on how you have it set up, it might cut off one of those characters. And that's usually due to you'll open it up and see the divider is cutting it off. So I'm going to leave a little bit of space there. That leaves enough room for our ones here to grow as this becomes a 2 and as that becomes a 2 or something else. So now we're ready to add our counter. We're going to go here to text, and we're just going to go to counter. We're going to move over here. We'll come back to our positioning again, but what we want to start with, you again can choose your font. We're going to leave it at the default, the 32 by 24. But what you might want to pay attention to is over here. Depending on how you're counting, I usually like to start at 1, not at 0. I want the first thing I scan to be my number 1 unit. And also, depending on what you're doing, if you know you're going to eclipse that 99, or maybe you're only counting something that you want to rotate, whatever it might be. Maybe you want it to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then go back to 1. You set your max there, and as soon as it hits its max, it's going to go back to 1. I'm going to set it to 170 for this example, simply because in the industry we're in, the hops, they might have a lot number of about 170, so that might be where they want it to rotate at. You do have the ability to do in different intervals, different steps. So you might want to pay attention to that stuff depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. We're going to go back to our geometry, and we're going to set, we know last time we were, 400 and, I don't remember what we finished at, 480, but we know we're going to be well past the 390 that's in there. So why don't we go ahead and let's do 490 again. I remember we were too far on that. Okay, that puts us right on top of our 1 and our divider. Our 1 right on top of our divider, I mean. So why don't we go ahead, I think we set that divider at 490 last time. That's where we ended up. So why don't we set it at 495 might give us enough space. Let's look at that. It's a little close for my comfort. I'm going to set it at 497. That's going to give me enough space to where I'm not going to fear cutting it off. All right. Now the last step when you're doing your counter, you can see in the 1, the box is narrow. So what I like to do is I like to actually increase that box because it'll cut it off as the number grows. And where you go to do that is you come over here to geometry again, and you want to take it off of fit to content, and you want to do without scaling. Is how I like to set it up. And right here at your size, I'm going to change that, and where I'm usually comfortable is instead of having it set to, that one was 9, I'm going to set it up to, like, say, let's see how, you'll see here in a second, but let's see how 30 looks. You can see our box grew here. Still, when you get up to 3 digits, that's not going to be big enough. So why don't we go again, compare to our geometry, and instead of 30, let's do 75. You can see you now have plenty of room, but here's what you got to pay attention to. When you pull that trigger because of the divider, and you go to scan this, you go to print this, you're going to have to finish out this entire roll before it'll start again. So you don't want this too big, or else you're going to have to roll a lot of dead space just to get it to rotate again. So I'm going to shrink it down and split the difference. We were at 30 and we jumped to 75. Maybe too big of a jump, so we'll go down to 50. I'm pretty comfortable with that, because as we get a wider character in here, and we get 3 of them, maybe 3 8s or something, I think that's going to be enough room. Now, you might pay attention, and it might end up starting to cut it off. You might have to go up to maybe 55 or 60, but I think that's a good start there for this example video. Those are the things. Yep, we modified it. We know that. We want to go ahead and save it. So now you should be set up to where everything's in there. So when we go to print it, let's see how it looks. So there's our grower number, our variety, our date and time, and then our number 1. Alright, so that's how you set up your date, time, and counter using line dividers to utilize separate trigger pulls. And again, if you wanted to set that up to where you had not the grower number, but all you wanted was the date and time, or maybe the date and time and counter, or just the counter, any of that, it would just be create a new project rather than add it into a new. But I get a lot of questions on how to utilize especially the counter. So that's how you would do it.